to go back in our recordings because I actually a few weeks ago said that I liked Pittman as a dark horse candidate. His name got thrown around a little bit early on in the search and then kind of faded away as Lane Kiffin and Brian Harsin and some of the other names came up. But I love the idea of Sam Pittman. The guy has been, I know it's been a long time since he's been a head coach, but he has quality SEC experience. He has SEC experience here, done great things at Georgia. He's a recruiter. And the thing that I love most, offensive line experience, and that is one of the areas where the Razorbacks have struggled mightily over the last couple seasons.
And we're going to talk much more about this. We, of course, want to hear from you. Remember, we showed the number, YouTube. We got the Chiefs and Pats going on right now on THV 11. Of course, the big ball game continues to follow us on YouTube. But, of course, we mentioned Sam Pittman coming back to Arkansas. Let's just get a little familiar refresher course about who exactly the next head hog is.
Sunday, the Razorbacks made it official. Sam Pittman is the next head football coach at the University of Arkansas. Pittman returns to Fayetteville from Athens, Georgia, where he spent the last 4 seasons as the offensive line coach for the Bulldogs. Prior to his time with Georgia, he spent 3 seasons with the Razorbacks as offensive line coach and recruiting coordinator from 2013 to 15 under Brett Bielema's staff. In 2017, Pittman helped lead the Georgia Bulldogs to 13 victories, an SEC title, and an appearance in the national championship game. Pittman's previous stops include Tennessee, North Carolina, and Northern Illinois. This is Pittman's first head coaching gig since 1991 when he led Hutchinson Community College in Kansas. Now, he's back in the SEC as a head coach, and he is going to try and revitalize a Razorback football program that hopes to compete once again. First mission for Pittman, recruiting.
And as we mentioned, too, recruiting going to be a big deal. Remember that early signing period creeping up. No contact period also creeping up. And then wanted to mention really quickly, U of A just did send out a release, an official release. Pittman will be introduced tomorrow in Fayetteville at 3 p.m. That is open to the public. You can show up. Doors open at 2 p.m. But remember, 3 p.m. tomorrow, Sam Pittman will be introduced as the new head hog at the University of Arkansas. And I know we've been talking so much about this. And I know you guys have been talking about this. I think we got some info, especially on Pittman, the coaching tree that he has done. So we talked about it. He's been the offensive line coach at Georgia from 2016 to 2019. Remember, he came with Brett Bielema in his first season, 2013, 14, and 15. A lot of SEC experience. 2012, he was at Tennessee. Before that, he was at North Carolina. He was their O-line coach. And again, as we mentioned in that package just there, not a head coach since the early 90s at Hutchinson Community College. In Kansas.
I know that was a box that a lot of fans wanted to be checked. They wanted to bring in a guy that had more recent head coaching experience, but he's been an associate head coach. It's not like he's been buried down the coaching tree. This is a guy that's been really involved with day-to-day aspects of every part of the offense, not just here at Arkansas, but also at Georgia. And look what Georgia's done since he's got there. You know, he's part of a staff that led the Bulldogs to a record-tying 13 victories, SEC championship appearances, their first appearance in the college football playoff. So I know it's not just him, but he has been on these bigger stages that fans want in a guy that's leading this program.
Absolutely. And as you talked about fans, we have been talking about this search. I feel like we've been talking about it for years.
I think they've been talking about it more than we have, let's be honest.
It's only been a month, too, but so many people reacting on Twitter, so many voicing their opinion about this, because I think early on Sam Pittman was not one of the favorites. But let's see, Cam says, Sam Pittman was one of the few reasons why I went to Arkansas. If he's back on the hill, they definitely got better today.
Well, that is definitely one of the things that we've seen from former players all over the place. I actually think this is a sneaky good hire, Barton Simmons says. Arkansas will have an identity, will recruit well. That is going to be huge. We're going to talk about it at length, and and we're going to Trey Biddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about this. This hire is so explosive that it's just been absolutely unreal. In fact, Rick David, always, we've seen him on Hog Zone Super Saturday many a times. He is on his way to the station right now.
We're going to see him in a few minutes.
We're going to hear from the former Razorback, the Louisiana native, in just a second. But Pittman is a really solid, fun hire considering the state of the program. I have to admit, he is absolutely right there. You must have a foundation to build on, which is linemen on both sides of the ball, culture that attracts, recruits fans, discipline, and buy-in. Anxious to see the staff he hires and schemes a first step back. And by that, he means a step back to prominence, not a step backwards. So let's just clarify. Of course, our guy Clint.
Yeah, Clint says, love the Sam Pittman momentum that he's building. Hog Nation, #WPS.
So you see a lot of positivity right here where I think, especially last night, early this morning, I know I was a little frustrated. It was getting borderline embarrassing when you're looking at Lane Kiffin kissing babies on the tarmac in Oxford, and at the same time Arkansas didn't have a head coach yet.
I mean, we always talk about coaching searches as a roller coaster, but I think this one, maybe more than anyone that we've experienced in recent years, because there's just been so many names that have been attached to this job. You know, we talked about Mike Leach, they talked about Lane Kiffin, Eli Drinkwitz last night, Brian Harsin. There have been a lot of names floating around, and so it's really hard to get really excited, and then when it looks like maybe things aren't coming to fruition, it's just, you hit those lows of lows, but I think that Sam Pittman is a really great get for Arkansas. I do.
Well, and let's remember this too. Just a month ago, we heard from Hunter Yurachek, and he talked about, I cannot afford to screw this up. I cannot afford to be right back here in 2 years later. And honestly, as I was talking to a lot of fans on Facebook and Twitter, I thought this hire 24 hours ago would be Eli Drinkwitz. It made sense to me.
You and I both did.
He went to Alma. He graduated from Arkansas Tech. He did go 12-1 this season, Sun Belt Championship.
Right.
But I think Yurachek, and like I said, we'll learn a lot more tomorrow when we hear from the athletic director.
There's still a lot to come out of this.
I think for him, Pittman is so much more of an SEC guy, a foundation, an associate head coach. And while people are going to be scared that he hasn't been a head coach, and the fact that he was a head coach almost 30 years ago at a community college in Kansas, he's been around the SEC.
Successful SEC,
Successful SEC programs. And remember, 13, 14, and 15, the 3 years that Pittman was here at Arkansas, they got better every single year.
Yeah, a couple of the stats that I saw when we were doing a little bit of Sam Pittman research before we could make it official that I really liked, and I'm going to keep harping on this offensive line because it's something that you and I have talked about, just the sacks and the inability to protect the quarterback, which has created some other problems. In 2013, under Pittman, the Arkansas offensive line were the best in the league in terms of the least amount of sacks that they gave up per game, 0.68 sacks per game. Same in 2014, 1.08. Those are numbers that I feel like we would kill for right now.
And how bad has the offensive line been over the past 2 to 3
And that's my point. You know, to be successful, and Rick made it there, we saw it in the tweet, to be successful, they're going to have to be successful on the offensive front. I think Pittman is a guy that can bring in a solid offensive line, coach them up, and really get back to that Arkansas style of football that everyone keeps saying is so important.
Well, it's balanced attack. It's everybody, you know, I remember it back to the days of Houston Nutt. People were mad at Houston because all he wanted to do was run the football. He only had a 2-time Doak Walker Award winner and Felix Jones. That's neither here nor there. You got to run the football
to be successful, no matter what you do.
And then Bobby Petrino comes in, and he's able to throw the ball a little bit. People get excited, and then they get away from it. Bielema comes in. They're excited to beat ground and pound. You only beat Alabama. You only beat teams like this with the ground and pound. Then they want to throw the ball and get wild, the crazy offense with Chad Morris. Now, it just seems like, honestly, every single coaching turn we have. But this is going to be key for Sam Pittman because I was talking to a source within the athletic department who thinks that this could be a Coach O situation where a guy who had been assistant in a lot of places. Remember Ed Orgeron?
That's right.
He was a head coach at Ole Miss. It didn't work out for him, okay? That's fine. He was an assistant at USC. He was obviously an assistant at LSU. They bump him up. Now they're the #1 team in the country. They're in the college football playoff. They see a similar path. And I'm not saying Arkansas is going to go to the college football playoff.
We are not saying that right now. Yeah.
What I'm saying is you get a veteran, a guy who's been around the SEC for 2 to 3 decades, who knows what he's doing, who can recruit, who builds excitement, who players love. We've already seen the players tweet about him. There is a path where this could be a similar situation to Ed Orgeron at LSU, where 2, 3, 4 years from now, we're talking about Arkansas being relevant under a guy who knows what he's doing.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. 2, 3, 4 years. I think also the part of this, and it's something that I had asked Hunter Yurachek at that press conference where he introduced Barry Lenny Jr. as the interim, is how do you sell someone on knowing that they're going to get enough time to build this program after a couple of quick turnarounds.
Right.
So I know that fans are tired of hearing the word patience. I think they're going to be more competitive next year. I think that Sam Pittman will get them. I mean, they have to be.
Yeah.
They have to be. And that is something that Pittman's going to understand coming here is that they have to be competitive. It's what costs Chad Morris's job.
Right.
But I think that players will want to play for Pittman. I think that they will be motivated to play for him, but we're not saying that this is going to be a one-year turnaround. But I do agree with you. I think 2, 3, 4 years down the road, you're going to see a very competitive Arkansas team if you give Pittman the time to recruit and get these guys in here.
He's got to get on it quick. Of course, you guys, I was checking my phone. We're checking our phone, social media, text. Remember, 501-376-1111. We're going to check some of the text messages you guys have been sending to us as we have a new head coach at Arkansas. This fan right here, it's sad Arkansas football takes what it can get. Again, we will get no recruits and we'll go nowhere. What is it going to take to get someone who will be able to truly rebuild, okay? Negative turn.
All right. If Pittman was any good, you would have hired him after Morris, I guess. I mean, he had to wait till the season's over. He was playing in a SEC
well, and people
game
miss out on the point that Sam Pittman did also have a championship game yesterday. Georgia, of course, lost to LSU. Now, I hope it's not wham, bam, so long, Sam. I do wish him well, all right?
Too old for head coach to rebuild the Hogs from the bottom. He's the same age as Coach O.
That's a good fact to throw out there. He is, and I understand, all right, fans, you know, a lot of negativity, and I think there's going to be negativity in anything that is going on right now.
Here's some positivity.
All right, excellent hire, top-notch recruiter, bring in a solid staff, and things can get at least, they'll be competitive next season. And I agree with him there. It all depends on the staff you bring in.
Yeah.
Coordinators are going to be big.
Well, you want to talk about staff. I want to talk, when we're done with the tweets, I want to talk about Barry Lenny Jr., keeping him on the staff, because that's something that fans have talked about a lot. But here we go. What a disgraceful hire for such a once proud university. Simple decisions like this are obviously out of reach for this administration. The state of the football program are in the heads of every single person at the university that allow our joke of an athletic director to continue to make decisions. Guys,
I think that if this was a simple decision, Lane Kiffin would have been your head coach about 48 hours ago. I think Hunter Yurachek took his time. I think he had to deal with a lot of circumstances. He had to deal with money. He had to deal with
there are a lot of things that go into making a head coaching decision.
Well,
there are.
And I'm not going to knock the guy yet. I'm not going to overreact. Just like 2 years ago, this fan base overreacted to Chad Morris. They thought we're going to throw the ball everywhere. He was at Clemson. Clemson was, you know, in the national championship or the college football playoff every year. You're just assuming Chad Morris is going to do the same. I think just as fans needed to temper their expectations 2 years ago, I think you need to temper your disappointment as well. They're not going to go 2-10 next year. I don't think they're going to go 2.
We don't think they're. I wasn't here for the Chad Morris hire, so I can't relate it to that.
It was buzzing.
I remember you saying that it was almost 2 years to this date exactly. You know, I like it. I'm going to come back to the fact that I like it. I just think it's a smart, solid hire. It may not be flashy like Lane Kiffin or Urban Meyer or some of the bigger names that people have thrown out there. But Sam Pittman is a good, solid fundamentals coach. And if you are rebuilding a program, it's not always about flash. It's not always the sexy hire that is going to build a good program from the bottom up.
Well, and not to rain on anybody's parade, folks, I grew up here just like all of y'all did. I grew up calling the Hogs. I was the biggest fan in the world. I'm just telling you like it is. A lot of people don't want to come here right now because you just fired your head coach after 22 games. And the fact is, a lot of folks probably said thanks, but no thanks. We really appreciate it. It's Eli Drinkwitz, an Arkansas native, as reports came out, I think about 5 minutes apart from this report, that it looks like he's going to Missouri right now. You were looking on your list of, I think Hunter Yurachek did exactly what he had to do. He looked at money, he looked at who wanted to be here, and he looked at how they can get better next year.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important aspect of this, and I know fans don't want to hear it about maybe Arkansas not being a destination job anymore, but it's really tough to be a destination job when you turn your staff over after 20 games. Any coach that's coming in here is going to want assurances that he's going to have some time to put his stamp on the program, and he's going to want more than 20 games. And so you're probably talking some big buyouts that are in that contract. We don't know the details of the contract yet. That hasn't been put out there. But there's something to be said about having a coach that wants to be here. I know my biggest concern about Kiffin was, would Kiffin want to be here long term?
Is it too quick of a fix?
Well, my thing about Kiffin was he may want it now, but is he still going to want it in 5 years or 2 years when something else maybe becomes available?
What happens? Well, and I agree with you there. What happens if Nick Saban retires and Kiffin's? I mean, that's a
we can debate that, and it's neither here nor there at this point. But Sam Pittman wants to be here. He wants to be the head of this program. He's worked here before. He wanted to come back. So there is something to be said for wanting to try and lead this program out of where they are.
Absolutely. And again, Sam Pittman is your new head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. Obviously, a lot of information still coming in. Want to remind folks again that there is going to be a press conference tomorrow at 3 o'clock in Fayetteville. It is open to the public. Doors are going to open at 2 p.m. Encouraged to come see the new Razorback. I'm sure Hunter Yurachek will answer a lot of questions. But again, Sam Pittman, as we've been discussing, we're going to take another look at his timeline, the way he became the head hog at the University of Arkansas. Of course, he's been an assistant left and right. He's been all over the SEC, going back to Georgia. And remember, this Georgia team, They were an overtime play away from being national champs just a few years ago when Tua came in. Yeah. Obviously, Alabama wins the ball game, but close to being a national champion. He's well-versed. And what I keep going back to, and we're going to hear and see a lot of tweets from former players, especially online a little bit later, man, they love this guy. And just how we got here. Let's watch this again.
December 1997, a man named Houston Nutt took over the head hog position. A Little Rock native who even played for the Hogs for a season, Nutt immediately reinvigorated and united the fan base. He coached the Hogs from 98 to 2007. In those 10 years, his teams made 8 bowl trips, but his bowl record was 2-5. There were 3 trips to the SEC championship game, but that was a game he never won. A strong 2007 season included a 3-overtime win over LSU, a team that would go on to win the national championship, but it left the Hogs with high hopes for the Cotton Bowl. But Nutt resigned from the Razorbacks before the game amid personal controversy and went to coach at Ole Miss 3 days later. Nutt left with a 75-48 record, and that brought in the next coach, Bobby Petrino. We all know the story. Petrino came to the Hogs from the NFL. He brought that offense that he concentrated on and 5 wins in the first season with the Hogs. The Hogs started to improve. By 2010, they finished with a 10-win season and a trip to the Sugar Bowl, their only appearance in a BCS bowl game. In 2011, it was an 11-2 record, only the third 11-win season in Arkansas history. And 2012 was going to be his year, but he wrecked his motorcycle that spring and did even more damage to his career at Arkansas. And that turned out not just to be a motorcycle wreck, it led to the discovery of an affair with a staffer. Jeff Long fired Petrino days later. And that's when John L. Smith was hired for a 10-month contract. You remember this guy.
Smile!
The team was still good, so fans hoped for a national championship season, but instead they got a 4-8 season and some embarrassing losses. Smith was not retained as a head coach. In 2013, after a lot of speculation, Arkansas hired Brett Bielema away from Wisconsin. Coach Bielema came in with a solid history, a winning record. He had sent loads of kids to the NFL, and he came to Arkansas for a big price, but fans were pumped. And then came some ups and downs. Good wins, bad losses, bad wins, good losses, 3 bowl trips, 2 bowl wins, but in the 2017 season, some really bad losses. It was the Friday after Thanksgiving, and that embarrassing loss at home to the Missouri Tigers led to the immediate firing of Bielema just moments after that game. A long coaching search, and the new athletic director, Hunter Yurachek, said he had his guy, Chad Morris. He finished his first season with the Razorbacks 2-10 and no SEC wins, making it the worst single season in Razorback history. Morris failed in the second season, too, which was highlighted by a loss at home to San Jose State. That game created a ripple effect of 7 straight losses. And Morris was ultimately fired on November 10th. Assistant coach and former Razorback quarterback Barry Lunny Jr. took over as interim for the final 2 games of the season.
And, of course, Barry Lunny Jr., it seemed, was in the mix to get that interim tag ripped off. Didn't think that was going to be possible after the Missouri game. Looked like it may have been coming down to him. We also heard Eli Drinkwitz, as we mentioned. Lunny was a possibility, but in the end, it's Sam Pittman. And I want to talk about Barry Lunny a little bit, as we mentioned.
Absolutely.
I think there is no way he's off this staff next year. I think he is recruiting for Sam Pittman very, very soon. I think he's back, no doubt.
Well, it's something that you and I had talked about after the Missouri loss, is that you thought whoever was going to be on staff needed to keep Barry Lunny Jr. It just so happens that Sam Pittman's worked with Barry Lunny Jr. Under Brett Bielema. So I agree with you. I think Barry Lunny Jr. needs to be on staff. I think he will be on staff. And I think that they'll work very well together. And, you know, Sam Pittman, also known as a recruiter, Barry Lunny, recruiter as well. I think it'll be a good fit.
Gotcha. And just heads up, guys, press conference at 3:30. So 3:30 is that press conference. We just got that released. Doors are going to open, I believe, at 3 o'clock. Get fans in there. Press conference at 3:30 tomorrow. So make sure I needed to correct that as well. But as we mentioned, as this information just continues to fly in and we get ready to hear from Sam Pittman tomorrow, what do you want to hear from him tomorrow? I think he's going to pitch. I know you're hurting. I know it's been a tough 3-4 years, and I came back for a reason, I'm sure.
I'm torn because I don't think fans want to hear these big expectations because they don't want to be let down again. Because Chad Morris, we're going to get in here, left lane boogie, we're going to be high scoring offense, and it's just something that never materialized. What I want to hear from Sam Pittman tomorrow is I want to hear realistic expectations for where 5-year plans are great.
Sure.
What are you going to do for me tomorrow? And next week,
and that's what Hunter said.
Month.
And
those are the things that are going to get you to that 5-year plan. So I don't care about 5 years. I care about next month. Who are you going to go out and sign? You're going to get on the road and recruit? Let's go.
He's got to go now. Of course, fans continue to text in. Remember, you can text us, weigh in on what you think Sam Pittman's hiring means for the U of A. 501-376-1111. Continue to text us. I know I've been texting with friends, family, back and forth. All right, we got one. Happy to see we found a coach. This was a great choice. Look forward to watching next season. I think it's going to be great.
All right. I think it's a good hire since many former players recommended him. Just please get a great OC in DC. Make Barry Lunny the quarterback coach. That is from Gary K. And we'll talk about coordinators, too. That's a big one.
A lot of fans, especially wanting Barry Lunny Jr., we absolutely agree. All right, fans still weighing in. Who is this guy? They sure did this quick. Why don't they put a little more thought and effort into it instead of just throwing money at it? I have to disagree with there, but fans are entitled to their opinions. All right.
It's a great hire to me. I think he will bring back respect for Hogs. Competitive first year, second year, make a difference in the league. Third year championship run. Been watching poor coaching the last 2 years. Yes, we know. We all have.
It has been a tough run for these Razorbacks, but I know fans are frustrated. They continue to weigh in. Please remember to text us 501-376-1111. This is the best we can do after a head start on the coaching search. Ole Miss didn't waste any time going after Kiffin. Hire a coach with no head coaching experience. What kind of offense are we going to run? Well, it's a good question.
That is a good question.
And I'm sure we have a man with the answers. Rick David, former Razorback. You've seen him, of course, on Hog Zone Super Saturday. Rick, first of all, congratulations on your Bruins.
Yes,
State
it was
champs.
a great win yesterday.
Great
Fun
win.
to watch.
Great win. Well, we wanted to get you in here, too. And your tweet was one of the first that we saw when the rumors about Pittman started. You talked about not only Pittman, but the staff he can bring in. Your evaluation of this hire.
First off, I think it's a great hire for where we are with the program. When you really look at the deficiencies we had on offense and defense on the lines, it was really, really bad. This is going to immediately address that. From the standpoint, you were talking about, what can they do in the first month, second month, third month. Sam Pittman's going to come in and have a plan. He's going to show these guys what we need to be able to do recruiting, what we need to be able to do working out. There are a variety of things there that I think he's going to be able to do. I don't think, you need head coaching experience thing is really that important because you're managing a game and that's what the head coach is going to be doing. I think you need somebody who's a great talent evaluator that can go ahead and
one of the things he's great at,
yes.
recruiting, and we've seen that.
Yeah, well, he's been with Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart took the evaluation plans that Saban had, and I was just talking on the phone with Kirk Bodkin, former Razorback football player and coach, and he was talking about what Saban does with recruiting. He says Saban shows the best film, the worst film of each player. They videotape kids the moment they show up on campus to the moment they leave. So if they're walking on campus, they know what they look like, they know how they're walking and how they handle themselves. That's what Sam Pittman's going to bring. He's going to bring a wealth of knowledge. We know he can coach. We know he can communicate. He is a disciplinarian. When it comes to, when you go watch him coach, he is fun to watch. I mean, you pay attention. You see how intense he is, and you see the kids responding to it. It's by no mistake that all of his kids vouched for him to get this job.
A lot of tweets today.
A
lot of tweets about this.
And an open letter. We can't
big.
forget the open letter that they wrote.
Yes,
too.
absolutely.
Former players, let me tell you guys, I've played at a collegiate level. It wasn't football, but you don't write an open letter about a former coach to get him hired if you are not confident and you do not want to see this guy lead a program. It speaks volumes about the kind of guy and the kind of coach he is.
It really does.
And I know you are very familiar with a lot of kids on this team. You've seen them play throughout high school. You even helped coach a lot of them. What do you think their attitude is going to be that apparently, and we've seen reports that Pittman's already going to meet with the team tonight. How do you think they will respond to Pittman walking in the room?
There's no doubt he's engaging. The first time I met him, I was in the complex. I was visiting with Mike Smith, wide receiver coach. We played ball against each other. We kept in touch. And Mike and I are sitting in there, and Coach Pittman walked in, and he introduced himself to me, and he was funny as can be right away, and he was friendly. You know when you talk to somebody and you just go, oh, I could follow that person.
Here we go.
That's what they're going to get from him. I experienced it in a 5-minute conversation I had with the guy. And you know he's going to come in with a whole lot of personality, and what they're going to see is genuine. Think about it. I thought with Chad Morris, he's a super nice guy when you talk to him face to face. You know, but he didn't come off real genuine when he was with the group. Sam Pittman, people are going to know this guy cares. And think about it. Where he's going to get it is he's also going to get it from moms and dads when he's recruiting. That's so essential.
You have
when
to sell the family, not just the kids.
He has to sell everybody. And you go ahead and you're sitting down with a recruit. Mom and dad are essential to that recruiting process, and he's going to win that.
Well, and that's the thing too, and he's got to go fast because I know this early signing period is
10
going.
days?
It's going really quick. December 15th is when I think December 16th to January 16th is the dead period. He's going to hit the ground running. I know this recruiting class. It seemed like last year, obviously, the freshmen that stood out. You know, we all know about Traylon. We all know about Trey Knox. We know the great things that they've done. How quickly can this guy get on the road? And I don't want to use the term salvage a 2020 recruiting class, but he's got work to do.
He definitely has work to do. What he's going to have to do is get staff. You know, you've got to figure he's going to keep Barry.
You would hope so.
I mean,
I hope so.
Well, they have a relationship from the past. He understands Barry is an excellent football coach. So Barry is going to know the ins and outs as to who the former staff has touched. I wouldn't be surprised if they keep Traylor. You know, I mean, he's got connections with a lot of big recruits.
And I were even talking about Coach Stepp, about the wide receivers coach.
Potential. There is definitely potential there. He's going to have to review all that, but he's also going to have to bring in his guys. You know, and that's one thing that he's going to make his name. The question is he going to bring Chaney in from Tennessee? What does that contract look like?
That is a big question we were talking
Barry
about.
Odom. I know a lot of people were
favoriting
that once the news broke. Maybe Barry Odom as a possible DC.
It would be an interesting, and I know we talked to about, I think most of the, and you don't want to see guys lose their jobs, but you would just figure most of the defensive staff, if not all, is going to be moving on from this.
You have to figure
You have to assume that, and you look at potential DC candidates. I know we talked about Barry Odom being brought up. He did just tweet 3 or 4 days ago, excited to call this guy a friend. I don't think he was. I'm sure he was just focused on the SEC championship, but probably not looking down the road.
Well, people forget that these guys know each other. They go head to head all the time in the conference, and they form really close bonds. And we've heard other coaches vouch for coaches when they lose their job. No one likes to see that.
Charlie Strong is available.
Yeah, you've mentioned that one.
That's a big name.
They're going to have multiple names cropping up. You have Strong, Randy Shannon worked on the staff with Pittman before. You've got so many names that are out there, and you've really got to look at. He's got the connections. It is a small community within coaching, especially within the SEC, because he wants to bring in people that understand the conference. You know, I thought one of the mistakes Chad Morris made is he brought in guys that did not understand SEC play. Coach Chavis, he had his time in the sun, there's no doubt. But I think the game was kind of passing him by. I don't think he was the avid recruiter that you need in the SEC. There's no way a Chavis could have worked for a Saban or even a Kirby Smart. And that's what you're going to need. I think Sam Pittman understands that, and he's going to bring in guys that can do that.
Again, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I have 2 questions for you. I've got all the questions. I mean, we've talked about defensive candidates. You have to figure they're not going to retain Joe Craddock after the offense, and he was kind of Chad Morris's guy.
No.
You know, we talk about as much as defense was important because it was really poor this year. The offense wasn't much better. I mean, who do you guys see as a potential offensive coordinator for him?
Chaney.
Chaney?
That's the first person I would think. You know, you got to understand what we've got to understand is what does he want to do from an offensive scheme perspective? Where do you want to get to? You know, a great coach adapts, and you look at Ed Ogeron.
That's what Hunter Yurachek said in his press conference. I'm not going to pigeonhole myself into a guy that runs a spread or runs the ball. A good coach fits what we have.
Yes, indeed. Ed Ogeron is a great example of transitioning year after year at LSU to being able to get to a point where they go from running the ball to somewhat pass and running, to now they're throwing the ball all over the place. That's what they're doing.
Well, and I know we've talked about this too. Again, we've been talking a little while. This news broke just about 20, 25 minutes ago that Sam Pittman is the new head hog up on the hill. A little bit of background information on Sam Pittman. You guys remember, okay, he was here at Arkansas from 2013 to 2015 under head coach Brett Bielema. He then departed for Georgia, where he was the offensive line coach. This year, named the assistant head coach under Kirby Smart back in 2012. He was at Tennessee again, goes back to Jim Chaney. Yep. Will he be coming back to Arkansas? He was with the Hogs during the time with Sam Pittman was here, and then, of course, North Carolina, the offensive line coach from 2007 to 2010. And then we mentioned his only head coaching experience, Hutchinson Community College in Kansas in the early 90s. But, I mean, does that scare you, is the question.
No, not really. I look at it from the perspective of you've got to go bring in talent, then you've got to develop, and then you've got to set a culture where people go, I want to be a part of that. No matter what, you can look at Ed Ogeron and Dabo Swinney and go, here's two guys that have the potential to win the title. Okay, neither of them were coordinators.
Right.
Not even coordinators. Sam Pittman's the same way. And you look at that and you go, that's impressive in what they've been able to do. But what they are, they're great communicators and they can recruit. You have to do that. And if you go ahead and you become a CEO and you're more of a macro manager, not a micro manager in how you handle things. You know, Ed Ogeron says when he took over that job at Ole Miss, he tried to do everything.
Right.
And then when he took over at USC after Lane Kiffin got fired, he backed off, you know, and he was like, let everybody do what they need to do. This game needs to be fun. Kiffin was not making it fun. You read articles about that, you know. Kiffin's not the kind of warm, lovey guy that is going to be able to, you know, be real genuine with players and then develop that culture that you see at LSU and Clemson, where, you know, people are attracted to that. They want to go where it's fun but disciplined. And I think Pittman's going to bring both of those.
I have a question about buying into the culture, and we certainly don't want to assume that anyone is going to leave, but we saw a mass exodus from the recruits that Brett Bielema brought in when Chad Morris came in. It's not unheard of to have high turnover like that when you have coaching turnover. There are players on this team, particularly at the wide receiver position, that Arkansas desperately does not want to lose. How does Sam Pittman make sure that Traylon Burks, Trey Knox, that they don't lose these kids and keep them here and continuing developing them, because we all saw what they were capable of just as freshmen?
Well, I'll tell you what he does. First thing he's going to do is he's going to recruit the players that he has there.
Right.
That meeting that he has with them, that he knows how important that is. And then when they get face to face, when you meet somebody, you know if they're a good communicator and if they mean well for you. And that's exactly what he's going to do. I think he's got a plan on what needs to happen. And you got to realize, Hunter Yurachek, when he's gone through his interview process, he's like, hey, this is what happened on the old team. How are you going to help bring these kids together? Because there were two factions before. There were the Bielema kids and there were the Morris kids, right? And he knows you need somebody that can bring that locker room together.
That was never repaired and ultimately became his downfall as well. During this coaching search, I know we're kind of all breathing it in. Again, Sam Pittman is your head coach at the University of Arkansas. Once again, he will be introduced tomorrow at a press conference at 3:30. A lot of the questions that we're talking about will be answered tomorrow, at least I'm sure. A little bit of detail. I'm sure Hunter Yurachek will give us some insight into his search. You could start to feel the blood boil a little bit this week. And I have to tell myself, as not only a sports anchor and a sports reporter, but as a guy who grew up here too and rooting for this team, easy. You don't need to flip out, because we thought Kiffin was a done deal in the middle of the week. Excitement builds. Social media takes off. Kiffin mania. We're listening to South Florida AM radio trying to figure out what this guy, if he can give us a little bit. And then when Ole Miss, after you've been kicked in the teeth and you've been kicked when you're down, kind of comes in, and it seemed like, I'm not saying they took Kiffin obviously, but fans are frustrated and they were just wanted to feel something good. Does this help with that frustration a little bit?
Absolutely. I saw something on Twitter. Somebody was running a poll, and they were saying you get more buy-in with Sam Pittman than you do with Lane Kiffin. I think a lot of people understand Lane Kiffin has a reputation that's still being repaired.
Right.
And that's what he's going to have to do. And, you know, in talking with friends like Kirk and other people, you know, Lane Kiffin still doesn't have a great reputation within the coaching circles. He may be flashy, and there's no doubt he knows football. I mean, he's a football brat because he was raised by his dad, who is a phenomenal
former
coach.
Arkansas assistant.
Yeah,
man.
Monty Kiffin, and what he's done in the past, I was never a fan of the Kiffin hire. Getting back to your point, I think this is excellent because they understand, everybody, all the fans, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out our lines were not up to par with the SEC or for that matter, even the Sun Belt in some ways, and we have to get that back. Arkansas's won because of physical football. Going back to the days when I joined the team under Coach Hatfield, our line was huge. Even when we had our struggles, our line was big and physical. And then when you go ahead and you look at Danny Ford, he brought in guys that were big and physical. Coach Nutt took those guys over, built a really warm culture that was guys just wanted to run through a brick wall. What did they have? Big linemen. Darren McFadden ran behind, and that's what you had. Even Petrino had success with Nutt's linemen.
You talk about how deficient that line is. I just think back to the San Jose State game because I was there for that one. They were rushing three linemen, and they were giving our offensive line and Nick Starkel all sorts of fits.
I know.
There is no reason, and no offense to San Jose State, because they showed up ready to play. Arkansas most definitely didn't. But realistically, there is no reason that a three-man pass rush from San Jose State should be bothering Arkansas. There's just no reason why.
There's no doubt about it. I think also, you look at what we've wanted in the past. We've wanted that bling of Petrino, right? I mean, he got the ball all over the place. And that's fun to see. It really, really is. But you look at that 2010 team to that 2011 team. There was a big difference between those two teams. One was more physical, and one was less physical. The one that was more physical should have really won the SEC West in 2010, but that was the year Cam Newton, right? But we went to the Sugar Bowl, and played a great game against Ohio State. But then the next year, we could not stay on the field with LSU and Alabama because of the physicality. In comes Bielema, in comes Sam Pittman. Next thing you know, we're keeping up with Bama. We almost beat them in Fayetteville. Then the next year, we go to Bama, play them tough. We go into LSU and beat LSU 31-14. That line ran over LSU. That was 4 years ago. Think about it. That was 2015, so we've had 16, 17, 18, and 19. That's all that was, and that was Sam Pittman that did it.
We've even seen a couple of tweets already from a lot of those guys. Travis Swanson, former Razorback, of course, played for the Detroit Lions. He played for the Jets. High praise for Coach almost said Coach Kiffin. Good Lord. Coach Pittman. I don't know about Coach Pittman. They're loving Coach Pittman as well, of course. We've got a ton of tweets rolling in right now reacting to this Sam Pittman hire up on the Hill as the Razorbacks have their next head guy. All right, a text right here. I think Hunter Yurachek has hit another home run recruiter, and hopefully he will bring in a new era. Watch the ticket sales rise. Good luck, Sam Pittman. Sit with Invisible A.
My thought is simple. We settled. All right, Willie. All right, we'll see.
Wouldn't say we settled.
Okay, once again, the U of A jumps for the first guy they see. I had hoped to apply for the job myself, was ready to offer a vision of the future, but no, shake my darn head.
Garbage hire.
Garbage hire.
Kiffin, stop texting.
Great
hire.
That's good.
That is the coaching search in a nutshell.
Yes,
Go
indeed.
from one extreme to the other in back-to-back messages.
Love it. All right. Man, I got to tell you, it has just been it's been a whirlwind. I know people just kind of digesting this, getting a lot of information in. Talking about Sam Pittman, he is back. The good thing for us is we love when we get these things ready. Already had a lot of Razorback pictures of Sam Pittman.
Yeah, we did.
So again, Sam Pittman is the head coach of the University of Arkansas. We're going to take one more look about exactly how we got here and what Hog fans can expect to see.
Sunday, the Razorbacks made it official. Sam Pittman is the next head football coach at the University of Arkansas. Pittman returns to Fayetteville from Athens, Georgia, where he spent the last 4 seasons as the offensive line coach for the Bulldogs. Prior to his time with Georgia, he spent 3 seasons with the Razorbacks as offensive line coach and recruiting coordinator from 2013 to 15 under Brett Bielema's staff. In 2017, Pittman helped lead the Georgia Bulldogs to 13 victories, an SEC title, and an appearance in the national championship game. Pittman's previous stops include Tennessee, North Carolina, and Northern Illinois. This is Pittman's first head coaching gig since 1991 when he led Hutchinson Community College in Kansas. Now, He's back in the SEC as a head coach, and he is going to try and revitalize a Razorback football program that hopes to compete once again. First mission for Pittman, recruiting.
Recruiting indeed, and you mentioned it too, Rick. Recruiting his own players to say. We talked about Rakeem Boyd. Does he stay? Does he go?
Well, I think every fan wants to see him stay, and with bringing in a guy like Pittman, at least makes a more compelling case because they were first in the SEC this year in rush yards, almost 240 a game, and then first in points, almost 40 a game.
Well, I tell you, and as we mentioned too, I'm sure Rakeem Boyd and him will have a conversation. As you mentioned too, as a former player, as a running back, he knows he probably has a shelf life.
Yeah.
It may not be Pittman why he leaves or stays, but at the same time, this running game, we talk about obviously Spivey coming back. We know Devwall Whaley graduated. Rakeem Boyd probably gone. What can this running game do? I mean,
yeah, I think he's got to come in and assess that himself.
Yeah.
The whole thing that you want is a coach that comes in and goes, well, what do I have and what do I need to recruit? And hopefully he can go get a good big-time running back, to come in. We need that, And then you go ahead and you see what you have and go, what does that line look like? How are we going to make this mesh? What is the quarterback? There's so many questions that he's got that we have. It's like, oh, what do you do with the talent that's there right now? And how do you make that work in the SEC?
Well, obviously, I know they asked you about the head coaching job, so I'm going to put you on the spot. If you're the head coach, if you're Sam Pittman in this situation, what is the biggest talent deficiency that you need to address, and how do you get it done first?
Offensive line, defensive line, and running back.
So
you've got specialties.
Yeah,
There you go.
It goes right into line with what they need to be able to address.
How many do they need?
A lot. You have to go. I think if you look at really good coaches that have built programs, they go attack the line first. And you can go to when Bielema took the job and he had Pittman. Pittman comes in, he signs Kirkland, he signs Skipper. The next year he signs Stratola and Ragnow. Those are all guys that went to the league. And then you had Sprinkle already on campus, and then Hunter Henry was also signed. Now, obviously, that was he came in as a tight end, but that's still a mesh of the line right there. Your tight end adds an attitude to the offensive line. I like to think of them as a lineman.
And we're getting a lot of questions too, especially on our tag board texting. Remember, guys, you can text us 501-376-1111. Please text us any questions you may have for Rick as you guys continue to reach out. But here are 3 things we talked about that maybe identify Sam Pittman and who he is. He's obviously a lifelong assistant. He's a great recruiter, and a lot of folks think he is going to bring what this program has not had in a long time: stability.
Yes.
Houston Nutt had a great phrase back in the day. Them 8 wins are looking pretty good about right now.
Yes, indeed.
And I think that's what fans want to see right now. It's just, I don't want to put the bar that low, but the Morris firing, you understand, because you're getting blown out by your former quarterback at Western Kentucky, but just some stability, really just see these guys compete a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what I think you're going to get. And, Razorback fans need to realize it's not going to happen fast.
Sure.
I think if he can take some of those recruits, because I think he's got like 5 kids in the top 250 recruits right now that are committed to Georgia that are linemen. If he can get a couple of those guys and a couple other guys to come join the program, you can see when they signed in 2013, Kirkland and Skipper by the Texas A&M game were starters.
Right.
And then you could see, I don't know if y'all remember, 2013, we got pretty beat up at the beginning of the season. We lost that game at Rutgers. It was ugly.
Brandon Allen got hurt. You ended up starting A.J. Derby on the road at Rutgers. I think that injury was against Southern Miss. I remember that ball game because he won the first 3. You're thinking, okay, and then they went on that losing streak. I think they lose 9 in a row. They finished 3-9, and so really banged up on that offensive line. But you saw the progress that you didn't see with Chad in year 2.
That's it. You saw in year 1 with Bielema, they have Mississippi State here at War Memorial and almost beat them.
Yes.
Alex Collins fumbles the ball. They end up scoring, goes into overtime, and we lose. Should have won that game. Then we go to LSU that year. We go and we demolished LSU. We're toe-to-toe with them. And that's when, we had the busted coverage.
The backup quarterback
comes in, throws the long pass.
Oh, man.
But our offensive line was improving. You had Alex Collins as a freshman and then Jonathan Williams, and they were a two-headed monster. That offensive line was the reason. They kept getting better because Sam Pittman was the coach.
Jonathan Williams not an hour ago tweeting his support Coach Pitt. So excited. If this is it, this is a home run hire. You see so many of these. How many did you find?
Also very, very vocally supportive. And I keep asking you recruiting questions because I think it's such a big component of this. And I know it's the word that fans hate the most from us right now is the word patience. They are tired of the word patience. Hunter Yurachek used it after the San Jose State loss. He asked for it. And we've said that this is not going to be an overnight turnaround. You go out and you address the lines in recruiting, but realistically, how long should fans expect for this thing to turn around? Are we talking 2 years, 3 years?
I think your third year with Pittman, you should really be seeing it in wins and losses. But if you recruit the right kids in, you can see it a whole lot earlier. And here's something that people don't think about, and it is essential: who is going to be the strength coach? Because I don't care what anybody says. When I saw the statistics of this Razorback football team at the beginning of the season, I was shocked at the numbers that I saw.
I have to mention this because it's funny that you say that, because I saw on Twitter about the Lane Kiffin hire. People were arguing on Twitter today about how important a strength coach really is. Let me tell you guys, it is. I agree with you because I've been in that room. I know exactly what they're trying to build. Granted, no one. I wasn't squatting 500 pounds or bench pressing 500 pounds. Strength coaches make a huge difference.
Huge difference. You've got to realize at LSU, Coach Moffitt has been there for years, brought in under Saban, and he's still having success under Ed Ogeron. That guy's not leaving there, and that's one reason why they're so successful. When I was playing, John Stuckey was our strength coach, and Coach Ford kind of went in a different direction. So John Stuckey went to Tennessee, and they happened to win a national title. Okay, Coach Stuckey was one of the reasons why we were successful. We were strong. I mean, we were really, really strong. Mark Henry and I had a discussion this year. We were at our girls play volleyball together, and we were talking about how many kids benched over 425 when we were playing, and the guys, we probably had 10 guys that could do that, and then you see Austin Capps was our strongest guy at 405.
Right.
That's think about it, that's, we're talking 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, and now you're looking at a team that, the biggest squat was like 650 or 675, and that was by Marshall, the defensive lineman. And we had Owen Kelly who could do 800 and something pounds. He'd been the bar. I mean, it's the first time I've ever seen that in my life.
When you're trying to move these big SEC bodies, it does make a difference in your lower leg strength and in your drive. And something that I'm interested in that we haven't mentioned, and it's kind of an offshoot of strength conditioning, is nutrition is so much more fine-tuned nowadays.
Absolutely.
And I know when I was in Lexington covering Kentucky, their nutrition program, they were fine-tuning what those guys were doing, and you can see how that program's grown, and that's been a part of it. And those are just the little behind-the-scenes things that people never think make a difference, but they actually do. So I'd be interested to know what they're doing with that.
Yeah, nutrition is key. That's the difference. Going back in the 80s, we would work out on Fridays and we'd go to Chili Mac, right?
80s was fun,
something like that. But
so you got
now
away with things like that.
Everybody's fine-tuned. Here's another thing that's really important about your strength coach too, and your trainer. They are your surrogate coaches in the off season. They're the people that you're
when coaches aren't allowed to be around that much.
That's who you're around, and you have to have good people. I was very fortunate. Number one, I had Dean Weber as a trainer, who I love to death, and I try and do whatever I can for the Razorback Foundation when Dean asks us to do something. And then we had Coach Stuckey. And Coach Stuckey was a guy that cared about the kids, and he wanted to make sure everybody was okay. We had one guy that got in a car accident, Cody Mosier. Cody was a big old lineman out of Hope. Cody got in a car accident, couldn't play for a year, and then he came back for his senior year, and Coach Stuckey was like, hey, look, we'll do whatever we can to get you ready, but you got to live a life. That's the kind of coaches you want, because he was real genuine. I think we're getting that kind of coach in Sam Pittman.
I am anxious. I'm very anxious, and as you fans are anxious too, we've seen a lot of tweets out there talking about Sam Pittman again. He is the next head football coach at the University of Arkansas. Marcus Spears, of course, ESPN SEC Network analysis. Sam Pittman about to turn them Razorback football back into bullies at the line of
scrimmage. That is a
That's huge.
endorsement.
That is big.
Of course, Razorback football tweeting out, we've got ourselves a new head hog. Welcome to Arkansas, Coach Pittman.
All right, there. We were talking about Frank right now a little bit later. I just can't believe it, man. Unreal. There is no better person out there. Bunch of freaks about to be on the hill. Freaking Sammy P.
Man, he had a game today, too. Frank obviously paying attention to this search. Again, Matt Zimmerman, of course, the last tweet we got, of course, Coach Z up there in Razorback country. Welcome back to the Razorbacks. Coach Sam Pittman. Love to see longtime assistant coach who has worked hard and grinded and recruited hard on that road being rewarded. I remember all that O-line we're going to have to his house to convince him to stay. That said a whole lot. Now he is back again. Physical football returning to Fayetteville.
And that's fun. And that's what the Razorbacks are about. You know, fighting Razorbacks. And fighting Razorbacks are physical. Just you ever see those videos on Instagram where those feral hogs are running people over?
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what you're going to have here. And it's so much fun to see that kind of football because that's what the SEC is about. It's a mean league at the line of scrimmage. I went from playing in the SWC to playing in the SEC, and the linemen are different in the SEC. That's where it really is defined. And there's no doubt there's speed everywhere. You can find it in Texas, you can find it in Oklahoma. But where you're going to see LSU and Ohio State and Clemson do a whole lot better than Oklahoma is at the line of scrimmage. I think those three teams are that much better at the line of scrimmage. In fact, Clemson this year, they're going to be hard to deal with because their offensive line is big and physical. They're even better than what they had last year. LSU, we know they can protect, and we know they're fast, and you got Joe Burrow, you know. But the line is where it's at. To hear all those names, Marcus Spears, Ragnow, on and on, giving a ringing endorsement.
The big fellas in the trenches, you love to hear it.
and those are guys who know football, and particularly Spears, who understands the whole SEC and what it's about. When you get that kind of endorsement, if any fan goes ahead and says, oh, this is a bad hire, well, you got Marcus Spears who sees the whole conference, who played on the line at LSU and played for the Cowboys on the line. He knows football, and he knows this guy can get
Won a national championship back in 2003. I remember that game. All right, as we're about to wrap things up, we've talked so much about Sam. How quickly do we get this staff together? Guys,
he's got to do that right away.
Right now.
You've got to figure, you know, once the conversation started, he started to reach out to people. You know, he's right now will be the busiest, crazy. There's no honeymoon, right? He's getting thrown into the fire, and he understands what he's got to. The staff is essential, and he's got to get the right people in. But the good news is he has relationships. You hope like he gets an Odom where he can come in. You know, guy's got a reputation of having stingy defenses, nasty defenses, and he can say, I want this person as my defensive back coach, my linebacker coach, my defensive line coach, and then he does the same thing on the coordinator side on the offense. So he's got to do it right away.
Man, it is unbelievable, but again, this news just breaking about a little less than an hour ago. Sam Pittman, the head coach of the University of Arkansas, former Razorback Rick David, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
really appreciate
pleasure.
it. We're going to hear much more from him. Of course, we're going to be on YouTube. We're going to put all of this information on our website, thv11.com. You got a ton coming up tonight at 10, I'm sure.
Indeed I do.
We're going to be talking a lot about this. And remember, press conference tomorrow, 3:30 in Fayetteville. I'm heading up to the Hill. We're going to hear from the new head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, Sam Pittman. Much more on thv11.com. Thank you guys so much for joining us.